Imagine a tank the size of a three-story building, built to crush everything in its path. And on its very first test, it got stuck in the mud and never moved again. This is how Soviet tank history began, with insane ideas, wild experiments, and engineers who had no idea what a tank should really be. Tsar tank, a massive machine with wheels nearly 9 meters tall, designed in 1915. The idea was simple. Instead of avoiding obstacles, just roll over them. The front wheels were gigantic, while a small rear wheel was supposed to stabilize the vehicle. It wasn't about firepower. It was about size and intimidation. But during its first test, the rear wheel sank into soft ground, and the engine didn't have enough power to pull it out. Strength could theoretically cross any obstacle. Weakness, completely useless in real terrain. While the British were already building tracked vehicles that actually worked, this giant became a symbol of failure. T-14 MS-1, the first mass-produced Soviet tank, small, simple, and very basic, armed with a 37mm gun and a machine gun, with a crew of just 2. It wasn't fast, and it wasn't powerful, but it was a starting point. Strength, simple production, and easy crew training. Weakness, weak armor, and limited firepower. Compared to more advanced Western designs, it was primitive, but it laid the foundation for Soviet tank development. T-26, a light tank based on the British Vickers design, equipped with a 45mm gun that could penetrate most targets of its time. Crew of 3. It became the backbone of Soviet forces in the 1930s. Strength, reliability, mass production, easy repairs. Weakness, thin armor, vulnerable to almost any anti-tank weapon. While Western countries experimented with complex designs, the USSR focused on copying and scaling what worked. BT-2, the beginning of the fast tank series. It used a unique Christie suspension that allowed it to run on both tracks and wheels. It could reach speeds up to 60 kilometers per hour, extremely fast for its time, armed with a 37mm gun. Strength, high mobility, and rapid repositioning. Weakness, very light armor and poor protection. While other nations focused on durability, the USSR started pushing for speed. BT-7, the most advanced version of the fast tank concept. It could reach speeds up to 70 kilometers per hour and was armed with a 45mm gun capable of engaging most light and medium targets. During exercises, these tanks were pushed to the limit, even jumping over obstacles at high speed. Strength, extreme speed, and maneuverability. Weakness, thin armor made it highly vulnerable. Unlike German tanks, which aimed for balance, Soviet designs pushed extremes, sacrificing protection for mobility. T-28, a medium tank with multiple turrets designed to break through fortified defenses. It carried a main 76mm gun along with additional turrets equipped with machine guns. Crew of around 6. Strength, ability to fire in multiple directions. Weakness, difficult coordination and mechanical complexity. While other nations began simplifying designs, this was an attempt to create a do-everything machine. T-35, the peak of multi-turret madness. A massive tank with 5 turrets, armed with a 76mm main gun, multiple 45mm cannons, and machine guns. It looked like an unstoppable fortress and was perfect for parades. Strength, overwhelming firepower and intimidation. Weakness, huge size, poor reliability, and command overload. In battle, coordinating such a machine was nearly impossible. While other countries moved towards simpler designs, the USSR pushed complexity to the extreme. And that's when the lesson became clear. It's not about making a tank bigger, and it's not about adding more guns. The tank that wins is the one that's simple, reliable, and actually works in real combat. And very soon, a new machine will appear, one that combines speed, armor, and firepower. And it will force the entire world to catch up. War doesn't care about beautiful ideas. It doesn't reward complexity. It destroys everything that doesn't work. And in 1941, when Germany invaded the Soviet Union, all those experimental designs were suddenly tested in real combat. And most of them failed. This was the moment when tanks stopped being experiments and became tools of survival. KV-1, a heavy tank that shocked the German army when it first appeared. Its thick armor could withstand most anti-tank guns of the early war. German crews often found themselves shooting at it again and again, with no effect. Armed with a 76mm gun and protected by massive steel plates, it was nearly unstoppable in the beginning. Strength, extremely strong armor, and battlefield durability. Weakness, slow speed, heavy weight, and frequent mechanical issues. While German tanks relied on coordination and tactics, the KV-1 relied on pure survivability. And for a time, it worked. KV-2, a giant with a massive square turret carrying a 152mm howitzer. This wasn't just a tank. It was a bunker destroyer on tracks. One direct hit could demolish fortifications, buildings, or enemy positions instantly. But that power came at a cost. Strength, devastating firepower capable of destroying almost anything with a single shot. Weakness, extremely slow reload, huge silhouette, and very limited mobility. While German tanks were more precise and flexible, the KV-2 was built for one purpose: to smash through defenses. T-34, the turning point, a tank that changed everything. It combined sloped armor, a powerful 76mm gun, and wide tracks that allowed it to move through mud and snow with ease. But the real story is behind its creation. Its designer, Mikhail Koshkin, personally drove prototypes hundreds of kilometers to Moscow in winter to prove the tank's reliability. He got sick during the journey and later died. Strength, perfect balance of mobility, protection, and firepower. Weakness, poor visibility and early production quality issues. While German tanks like the Panzer IV were more refined, the T-34 was simpler, tougher, and easier to produce. And that made all the difference. T-70, a small and lightweight tank used for reconnaissance and infantry support. Armed with a 45mm gun, it was not designed to fight heavy tanks, but to assist on the battlefield. Strength, small size, mobility, and ease of production. Weakness, weak armor, and limited combat capability. Compared to American tanks like the Sherman, which were more versatile, the T-70 played a more specific and limited role. IS-1, the beginning of a new generation of heavy tanks. Designed to replace the KV series, it featured improved armor and a more modern layout. Armed with an 85mm gun, it was capable of dealing with newer German threats. Strength, improved balance between armor and firepower. Weakness, transitional design with limited production impact. While Germany was developing heavier tanks like the Tiger, the Soviet Union was preparing its answer. IS-2, a true battlefield hammer. Armed with a massive 122mm gun, it was designed to destroy heavy German tanks and fortified positions. Its shells were enormous, each one capable of breaking through armor or concrete. Strength, incredible firepower and strong frontal armor. Weakness, slow reload and limited ammunition capacity. While German tanks focused on precision and optics, the IS-2 relied on raw destructive power. And it was terrifying. T-44, a quiet revolution. It looked similar to the T-34, but internally it introduced a completely new layout. The engine was placed sideways, reducing the tank's height and making it harder to hit. Strength, lower profile, improved protection, and better design efficiency. Weakness, arrived too late to have a major impact in the war. While the West continued refining existing designs, this tank became the blueprint for future Soviet tanks. By the end of the war, one thing became clear. Germany built powerful machines, but too complex. The United States built reliable machines, but not always the strongest. The Soviet Union built something different. Not perfect, not comfortable, but effective. Simple enough to produce in thousands, strong enough to survive, and deadly enough to win. The war was over, but something even worse was coming. Now the question wasn't, can your tank survive a shell? It became, can it survive a nuclear explosion? This was the beginning of the Cold War, and fear started shaping machines. T-54/T-55. This became the most produced tank in human history. Tens of thousands built and used across the world. Armed with a powerful 100mm gun and protected by a rounded turret designed to deflect incoming shells. It was built for one thing, reliability. But what made it truly different was something new. Protection against nuclear, biological, and chemical threats. The tank could seal its crew inside, filtering contaminated air. Strength, extreme reliability, simplicity, and adaptability. It could fight anywhere, from deserts to jungles. Weakness, limited visibility, and less advanced targeting systems compared to Western tanks. While the United States focused on crew comfort and advanced optics, the Soviet Union built a machine that could survive in the harshest conditions, even after a nuclear blast. IS-7. One of the most extreme heavy tanks ever created. Massive armor, a powerful 130mm naval gun, and a design that looked like it belonged in the future. It was built to dominate any battlefield. But it came with a problem. Strength, incredible armor, and overwhelming firepower, almost impossible to destroy frontally. Weakness, extreme weight, logistical nightmare, and impracticality. Bridges couldn't support it, transport was difficult, and production was unrealistic. While Western nations were already moving toward more flexible designs, this was the last attempt to build the ultimate heavy tank. And it failed. T-10. The final chapter of heavy tanks in Soviet service. It was powerful, armed with a large gun, and heavily armored. But it was also a sign of the end. Strength, strong armor, and good firepower for its time. Weakness, outdated concept in a rapidly changing battlefield. By this point, anti-tank guided missiles were emerging, weapons capable of destroying even the heaviest armor. While the Soviet Union had invested heavily in heavy tanks, The battlefield no longer needed them. Speed and versatility were becoming more important than raw protection. Object 279, one of the strangest tanks ever built. It had 4 tracks instead of 2 and a rounded, almost UFO-like shape. This wasn't a design choice for style. It was built to survive a nuclear shockwave. The shape helped deflect blast pressure, and the 4 tracks prevented it from flipping over. Strength, extreme stability, ability to cross difficult terrain, and designed resistance to nuclear blast effects. Weakness, complexity, high cost, and impractical maintenance. While Western tanks focused on mobility and electronics, this machine represented pure Cold War paranoia, engineering driven by fear of total annihilation. And this is where everything changed. For years, tanks were built to be stronger, heavier, more armored. But now, a single missile, or a nuclear blast, could destroy everything. The West adapted faster, focusing on precision, targeting systems, and crew survivability. The Soviet Union chose a different path: smaller tanks, lower profiles, mass production. Not to survive forever, but to fight, and keep fighting. And this decision would shape the next generation of tanks, because the future was no longer about heavy monsters. It was about something new, faster, smarter, more efficient, and far more dangerous. By the 1970s, the rules had changed again. It was no longer just about armor or firepower. Now it was about technology. Who sees first wins. Who shoots first survives. And this is where the Soviet Union made a bold decision. Instead of copying the West, it would try to outthink it. T-64. This tank shocked the world when it appeared. It was one of the first to introduce composite armor, layers of steel combined with non-metal materials to improve protection without increasing weight. But the real breakthrough was something else: the autoloader. The Soviet Union removed the human loader and replaced him with a mechanical system, reducing the crew to 3 people and lowering the tank's profile. Armed with a powerful 125mm smoothbore gun, it was far ahead of its time. Strength, advanced armor, smaller size, and high firepower. Weakness, complex design and reliability issues, especially early on. While Western tanks like the American M60 or German Leopard 1 focused on crew comfort and simplicity, the T-64 was a technological leap, but also risky. T-72, a different philosophy. While the T-64 was advanced and expensive, the T-72 was designed to be simpler, cheaper, and easier to produce in massive numbers. It kept the autoloader and 125mm gun, but used a more robust and reliable design. Strength, durability, ease of production, and global adaptability. It could operate in almost any environment. Weakness, less advanced optics and fire control systems compared to Western tanks. While NATO tanks invested heavily in precision targeting and electronics, the Soviet Union focused on numbers and reliability. The result: one of the most widely used tanks in the world, T-80. Now the extreme again, but this time with technology. The T-80 was equipped with a gas turbine engine similar to those used in helicopters. This gave it incredible acceleration and the ability to start instantly even in freezing temperatures. It was fast, smooth, and powerful. Strength, high speed, quick response, and excellent mobility in cold environments. Weakness, extremely high fuel consumption and complex maintenance. While American tanks like the Abrams also adopted turbine engines, they had better logistics to support them. For the Soviet Union, this created a serious burden. Object 287. One of the strangest experiments of the Cold War. This tank didn't rely on a traditional gun. Instead, it was designed to fire guided missiles. The idea was simple: destroy the enemy before they could even get close. Strength, long-range precision, and powerful anti-tank capability. Weakness, lack of versatility. Without a conventional gun, it struggled in real battlefield conditions. While the West explored similar ideas, both sides realized something important. Missiles were powerful, but tanks still needed guns. And here's where things became almost absurd. Instead of choosing one perfect design, the Soviet Union produced 3 different main battle tanks at the same time: T-64, T-72, T-80. All of them had similar roles. All of them required different parts, different maintenance, different logistics. Meanwhile, the West took a different path. The United States focused on one main platform, the Abrams. Germany focused on the Leopard. Fewer designs, better standardization, stronger coordination. The Soviet Union chose another strategy: more tanks, faster production, constant innovation. Not perfect, but overwhelming. And for a time, it worked. Because in a real war, it's not just about having the best tank. It's about how many you can bring to the battlefield. But this approach came at a cost. Too many designs, too much complexity behind the scenes, too much pressure on the system. And soon, everything would begin to collapse. Because the next era would not be about innovation, it would be about survival. The Cold War ended, the Soviet Union collapsed, and suddenly there was no money, no clear strategy, no future. For the first time in decades, it wasn't about winning, it was about surviving. T-90, a tank born from compromise. It combined the proven hull of the T-72 with elements and technology from the T-80. Armed with a 125mm gun and equipped with modern fire control systems, it became the backbone of Russian armored forces in the 1990s and beyond. One of its most recognizable features was the Storer system, infrared dazzlers that looked like glowing red eyes designed to confuse incoming missiles. Strength, balanced design, improved protection, and adaptability. Weakness, still based on older platforms, with limitations in crew safety. While Western tanks like the Abrams and Leopard II pushed forward with advanced electronics and heavy protection, the T-90 represented evolution, not revolution. Black Eagle, Object 640. A striking prototype that looked like the future had already arrived. It featured a completely redesigned turret with an external ammunition compartment. A major attempt to solve one of the biggest problems in Soviet tank design: crew survivability. By separating ammunition from the crew, it aimed to prevent catastrophic explosions. Strength, improved crew protection, and modern layout. Weakness, never entered mass production due to lack of funding. While the West continued refining existing tanks, this project showed that Russia was thinking about radical change, but couldn't afford it. T-14 Armata, a tank designed to redefine everything. It introduced an unmanned turret, meaning no crew inside the turret at all. Instead, the crew sits inside a heavily armored capsule in the hull. Equipped with advanced sensors, active protection systems, and a powerful 125mm gun, it was meant to be one of the most advanced tanks ever built. Strength, revolutionary design, high survivability, and cutting-edge technology. Weakness, extremely expensive, complex, and produced in very limited numbers. While the West focused on upgrading proven platforms, Russia attempted a leap into the future. But reality slowed it down. T-90M Pro Rev, the modern evolution of the T-90. Upgraded armor, improved targeting systems, better optics, and enhanced survivability. It represents the current state of Russian tank design. Not completely new, but heavily improved. Strength, modernized systems, better protection, and combat effectiveness. Weakness, still limited by the original design philosophy. While NATO tanks rely heavily on advanced electronics and coordination, this tank focuses on staying relevant in modern combat. Modern battlefield modifications. And now, the most unexpected evolution. Tanks covered with metal cages, improvised armor, and strange structures often called cope cages or grills. These are not design features. They are desperate adaptations. Strength, increased chance of surviving drone attacks from above. Weakness, reduced mobility, awkward handling, and not always effective. Because today, the biggest threat is no longer another tank. It's a small drone, cheap, fast, and everywhere. And this is the moment where everything changes. For over 100 years, tanks evolved to survive bullets, then shells, then missiles. But now, a machine worth millions can be destroyed by something that costs a few $100s. The West builds fewer tanks, but invests in technology, sensors, and integration. Russia upgrades older platforms, focusing on numbers and adaptability. Different strategies, different philosophies, but the same problem. Because the battlefield has changed. It's no longer just about armor. It's not just about firepower. It's about visibility, speed of decision, and survival in a world where threats come from everywhere. And maybe, for the first time in history, the tank is no longer the king of the battlefield. But one thing remains true. From giant monsters that couldn't move, to machines that can see, track, and destroy targets kilometers away, this evolution was never just about steel. It was about ideas, mistakes, and the constant race to stay alive. And now the question is no longer, which tank is stronger? But, do tanks even have a future?